diolch yn fawr I chi. Gai mi ddweud cyn I mi dechrau bod mod i'n falch iawn o gael gyfle eto I fod yma gyda chi rannu amser diddorol iawn ac diolch Wyn Bill ac Walter am y wachoddiad. Diolch Walter yn enwedig am cyfieithu. Dwi'n ymddiheuro am darlithio yn Sbaeneg ond mamiaeth yw mamiaeth weithiau. Ac efallai fydd yn helpu mewn ffordd I greu awyrgylch Patagonaidd efo dipyn o sŵn Sbaeneg ar eich clistiau. Gobeithiwn. Ffwrdd ni felly. Las lenguas parecen experimentar la dinámica propia de los
like human beings. They are born, they grow, they change, and eventually they die or disappear. For instance, we could try to write a biography of a language, and those biographies change as the language speakers do. What I'm trying to do in this work is to write a sort of biography of Welsh Patagonian, providing examples of my own experiences. So this is not going to be an academic work per se. It's more than anything a reflection of my life experiences. Of course, I'll be drawing from some of the academic studies and works that I've used for my work, but more than anything, it's connected to my emotional memory, and which is especially strong this year as we celebrate the 150 years and ask ourselves questions about our identity. I have divided this work in three stages. Each of them last for 50 years. The idea is to take advantage of the importance of the 150 years and play a bit with this need to celebrate important celebrations. So I'm going to use some family stories and some pieces of literature which have inspired me and I'm going to share with you today. In the first 50 years, since 1865 until 1915, this is the beginning of Welsh settlement in the Chubut River. This is the time when we find the colony expanding its frontiers. And Welsh language is very much alive and growing, because it was part of the ideological matrix of the settlement. It's got lots of social prestige. It's the language of the private and informal sphere, but it is also the language used in more formal context. For instance, at work, in commercial transactions, at government, and it's the language of the chapel and other institutions as well. It was a language that provided social mobility, because although there weren't many options in terms of work for the first settlers, there were more options to work through the medium of Welsh than through the medium of Spanish in Chubut. If the settlers from the Chubut Valley wanted to move somewhere else outside Latva, they really needed to learn Spanish or English. For instance, English was key if you wanted to find a job at the British Hospital in Buenos Aires or work in the railways, who were run by British companies. The prestige of the Welsh language was reflected in its creativity and its possibility to be used in different places and spheres. It was the language of education, it was the language of literature, of poetry and narrations, it was the language of the media at the time. But the vitality of any language can be measured not only in terms of the registers through which it can be used, but also because of the creativity that it shows in its everyday use. Kyle Totorati, Brenny Baragat, Rochuel Jasendod are examples of how creative was the use of Welsh in Patagonia, and I remember those expressions being told to me by my grandmother, who was raised as an orphan from the early age of being 8 years old. Here is a picture of my grandmother. She got married and she had 7 children. Among them, my grandmother, Eunice. All these people spoke Welsh as a first language, as a mother tongue. This picture is from around 1909. They spoke Welsh at home, at school, in chapel, in shops, with the neighbors and with visitors. They wrote letters in Welsh. They received letters in Welsh from other places in Argentina or from Wales. They would read a Drafod and they would read literature in Wales. Here we can see another picture of Elizabeth with her children and grandchildren on the day of the funeral of her husband. 2 of the sons, Lemuel and Levi, remained single and lived in the family farm until they died in 1980. Lemuel, the eldest, went to the intermediate school, so he was able to converse in English as well. Levi, the youngest of them all, here we can see him with his doing military service in Argentina. He was an avid reader of Welsh. He would receive books through the post. When they died, the dog they had in the farm had to be given away, but the dog never adapted to his new life. People complained that the dog wouldn't obey because his mother tongue was Welsh. The second stage I'm going to talk about is from 1915 until 1965. In this period, we see a process of language erosion, where Welsh loses its status as a privileged language. And this is the time when we see Welsh becoming a minority language for the ethnic community. Welsh loses social mobility. It was attached to it, because most institutions run by the Welsh at the time went bankrupt, like the Ecamec, and immigration from Wales stopped in 1913, and contact with Wales stopped. Welsh lost its linguistic market, but also it was less and less used in places like in chapel and relationship with neighbors and other cultural activities like the Eisteddfod, which were held less frequently until it stopped in the 1950s. At the same time, the effect of cultural assimilation run by the Argentine government with nationalistic ideals and ideologies started to affect the Welsh community. And therefore, the Welsh community had to learn to speak and to use the Spanish language, something that was done through the educational system and primary schools. Since 1896, the government had decreed that all school instruction had to be done through the medium of Welsh. And this policy was applied in Olapva in Chubut. The students were not allowed to use Welsh in schools, and they were not able to interact with fellow classmates if they didn't use Spanish. Rapidly, Welsh children became bilingual through school. So we can see that in this time we were seeing a process of language erosion. In 1906, nevertheless, the Welsh pioneers established the Ysgol Canolraddol, the secondary intermediate school, which gave the chance for youngsters to learn Welsh and English and to get a better job after they finished school. In terms of the government in Rawson, the province of Chubut, most of the jobs happened through the medium of Spanish, and most of the officials sent to work in Rawson were actually from Buenos Aires. If we read some historical documents, we can see that there were tensions developing because of this linguistic landscape. There were criticism towards the attitude of the Welsh settlers because the Welsh were described as a community who resisted being incorporated into the fold of Argentina. Within the Welsh community, there was intense debate as to whether they should remain isolated and resist assimilation, or whether they should incorporate themselves into Argentina and learn Spanish. Another interesting factor to take into account is massive immigration from other communities into Patagonia. There's also the impact of marriages, intermarrying with members of other communities, something which affected language transmission to the children of these mixed marriages. So what we find is basically a situation of what is called diglossia, by which one language is spoken in a certain context. In the case of the Welsh, the family, for instance, and Spanish was used in other contexts, work, government, etc. If anyone wanted to secure a good job, they had to turn to the use of Spanish. This situation grew worse during the 40s and the 50s, and Welsh was stigmatized in terms of the market value of the language. So Welsh was not associated with a good job or with education or with better prospects for the future. Some parents would use Welsh to talk to their neighbors and their friends, but they would start using Spanish with their children. In this picture, we can see my maternal grandparents, Eunice Davis and Meredith Jones, on the day of the wedding in their farm in Llequil in Patagonia. The four of them spoke Welsh as a mother tongue, and they started learning Spanish when they first went to school. Most of the teachers were of Welsh descent and spoke Welsh. They worked in the farm and they never left that place, so they were not exposed to other communities and to other languages. So Welsh was preserved, although of course they had to learn a bit of Spanish. So when they went to town to do their shopping, they had to use it, but that was not the language they preferred to use. My parents, Melba and Emir Jones, and my uncles can be seen here. All of them, except for one auntie that stayed at the farm, moved somewhere else to study or to work, and many of them are part of that generation who married to members of other communities. My father and my paternal grandfather left the farm early to go to study at a primary and secondary school. Places where they wouldn't be able to use Welsh, so they stopped speaking in Welsh. And they got used to replying in Spanish, even though their parents would ask questions or speak to them in Welsh. Evidently, the process of stigmatization had affected them. In my mother's case, it was different. She was raised by her maternal grandmother, and they spoke only Welsh. Even when she moved to Trelew to study, she still spoke Welsh. She would go to chapel, and her contact with the Welsh language was stronger, and she was more conservative, if you want. I remember my paternal grandmother, as an elderly lady, speaking Welsh to my parents, and paradoxically, her son would reply to her in Spanish, and but his wife would reply in Welsh. The third stage is this final period of 1965 until 2015. This is the period when we see Welsh language experiencing several changes. In the 60s up until the 80s, the linguistic status of Welsh was experiencing a process of language shift, but towards the 90s there are several changes that reverse that trend. During the 70s, there was massive immigration into Chubut and out-migration from Chubut, from the farms in Chubut, from young people of Welsh descent moving to the cities. There were more and more inter-ethnic marriages and young people who would move to work in towns or in the government in Rawson and in the cities mainly, especially after 1955 when Chubut became officially a province. The new generations tried to adapt to the new way of life, distancing themselves from the cultural model inherited from the forefathers, the Welsh forefathers, which were associated to backwardness and isolation. Professor Robert Owen Jones lived in Chubut during 1973 and 1974 to study the characteristics of Patagonian Welsh. His impressions coincide with those of local linguists like Anna Virkel and Cecilia de Glansman, not only in terms of the diagnosis of the state of the Welsh language in the 70s and the future prospects of it. They speak of a situation of bilingualism and a recedent language with no transmission, intergenerational transmission of Welsh, a situation of language shift and language loss. We know that the centenary celebrations in 1965 was a turning point in the history of the Welsh language. The national and provincial government gave new meaning to the contribution of the Welsh migration to the national history, and that increased the ethnic pride of the community, something which was clearly seen towards the end of the 1980s. This was seen in the renovated interest of the younger generations in learning more about the culture and the language of Wales. The increasing exchanges between Wales and Patagonia helped the work done by institutions in Wales and in Chubut in order to achieve two aims. First of all, to learn the language inherited from the pioneers, and also to create a generation of local Welsh language tutors who would help the work done by the tutors sent from Wales. A very interesting factor to take into account is the fact that Welsh has been incorporated in the teaching, in the curriculum of the province of Chubut at the primary and secondary level. And now we find a Ysgol Henry bilingual school in Trelew, a nursery school in Gaiman, and a new project of establishing a new bilingual school in Trevelyan in the Andes. What people are trying to achieve is to offer the possibility for young people to learn Welsh through the schooling system in Patagonia. there is a strong interest in bilingualism because it, in theory, will give better opportunities for children who learn Welsh. The work done by these schools contributes to the process of language transmission, but unfortunately, the work is not helped by the fact that Spanish is spoken at home. There are other institutions like Mentoriaeth, who is present in Patagonia, the Eisteddfod, of course, and the Gorsedd, who was reinstated in 2009. All these institutions have helped to maintain Welsh in Patagonia and to raise its prestige and to raise its market value in the linguistic market, which is similar to what we found at the very beginning in Ewledfa. Can we say that the Welsh spoken in Patagonia has a strong influence of the Spanish language in terms of its pronunciation and its linguistic background? Well, maybe. And we can also say there is a lexical renovation and growth. We're learning new words that didn't exist in Patagonian Welsh, words which have been brought from Wales. For instance, the word for television, for mobile phone, for computer, and for the internet. As Professor Reuben Owen-Jones said in a conference in Cardiff in 2010, the Welsh in Patagonia has shown its resilience in Chubut, a capacity to adapt positively and survive and fight against adverse or dramatic circumstances, developing new forms of being cohesive and of belonging to our community and being part of an individual or collective identity. We can say that nowadays the Welsh language has reached some kind of plateau, to use that very Patagonian term, and the attitude of the speakers towards the language and the perception of the language has changed, not because they see it as a way of upward social mobility. The value of the language is related to the identitarian perceptions of the speakers. I am an example of this idea of resilience. My parents got married in the 60s and they moved to Rawson looking for work. They moved away from the ethnic values of the community in the farms. The contact with the Welsh language was sporadic. We would go to the Eisteddfod and visit our great-grandparents and neighbors. That's the reality that my cousins experienced as well, who lived in Dolavon, in Madrid, and in Rio Negro. Intergenerational transmission of language didn't exist at the time, and everyone would think that Welsh would disappear. We were 17 children, including my cousins, my brothers, my siblings, and I am the only one who learned Welsh, attending courses for adults in Argentina, in Patagonia, and I also was lucky enough to come to Lampeter to study Welsh and do one of the summer courses offered by Cardiff University. There are other examples who are a clear illustration of this process. There's people who studied Welsh as a second language and who won Bardic Chair in the Eisteddfodau in Chubut. David Williams, for instance, and Anna Ciabranda-Ruiz in Gaiman. There's people who've studied Welsh and who are now teaching Welsh to other people in Patagonia. There's people who become academics and translators, some of whom don't have any Welsh background. There is another way through which we can see the resilience of the Welsh language, and they are called the semi-speakers, people who speak Welsh and who maybe be
pueden
bilingual,
interactuar apropiadamente en
but who
situaciones
don't use Welsh as a main
pero sus
language.
habilidades receptivas superan las destrezas cognitivas.
These are people who are
Uno
able to
alcanza niveles de
understand the
complejidad
language
suficientes a todos en
at a
cualquier
very
contexto
basic
pragmático
level,
de comunicación.
but who are not able to
Alguien
speak
podría
fluently.
asumirme como testimonio de esto.
Maybe I can be
En
an
caso
example of
consiga
this
esta
as well,
disertación más en mi lengua
because as you
materna
can
que la
see, I've used Spanish for this presentation and not Welsh.
Camino al Bicentenario, el desafío de los próximos
We are on
años.
the way to celebrating the 150 years. And what is going to
¿Qué
happen
impacto
in the
tendrán a
future?
largo plazo los proyectos
What
de
will be the
educación
long-term
bilingüe
effect
que
of the
en otros aspectos de la
Welsh
vida
teaching
social de la
project
Patagonia?
and in the teaching of
¿Qué tantas
Welsh
chances
in
existen de que
Patagonia?
estos chicos hablen galego a
Are
sus
there
hijos
real
en el
chances that the
futuro
children who are
inmediato?
learning Welsh today will speak
Restableciendo la
Welsh to
vía
their
convencional más
children
efectiva
in the
de la
future?
lingüística que siempre ha sido la guía generacional en el seno de la familia.
And this would be the ideal situation,
Por otra
transmitting
parte,
the
el
language
uso
at
que hacen
home.
de la lengua étnica del galés,
On
o
the
de su
other
competencia
hand,
bilingüe aún,
they use the Welsh language they've learned mostly at school or in Eisteddfodau or for singing, or are they going to use the language in other social contexts?
difícil conjeturarlo.
It's difficult to say.
Lo que sí resulta certero
What
es
is
que el mundo en el
clear
que estamos
is
y
that
al
the
que
world
vamos
we
es
live in
indefectiblemente
is a
pluricultural y
multicultural and
por
multilingual
lo que la
world.
educación que asume ese carácter
So
que todos
bilingual
nosotros
education, the kind of education we get through these projects,
representa un valor agregado que
is
beneficia a todos, no
very
solo a los
useful,
niños y jóvenes descendientes de
not only
comunidades
for
particulares.
children and Welsh
El
descendants
aprendizaje
in
en y de
Argentina.
cualquier lengua siempre es
Learning
humano.
any
Pues
language
con ella va
is
una gramática,
is
con ella
always
una lógica,
beneficial,
y una
because you
comunicación
can learn
cultural
a new
coordinada
grammar,
para
a new way of
conectar con la
thinking,
propia.
and a new way of looking at
Los
the
estados
world,
deberían
different to the one you learn with your mother tongue.
reflexiva, flexible,
All countries, all nations should have a reflexive and flexible attitude towards languages. In our region and in our country,
suelen adscribirse exclusivamente
there
a
are
lenguas indígenas,
policies
lo cual es
to
muy
promote
importante
the use of languages, but
Pero
mostly
suelen
it's
ignorar también el caso
languages
de
of the
otras
native
lenguas migratorias,
population.
que quedan
But
ignoradas la
most
iniciativa y la atención que pueden
languages
ejercer
brought
las
by
comunidades
immigrants are
particulares.
ignored, unfortunately.
Aun cuando algunas de las lenguas indígenas que referimos también son migratorias de nuestra región, por ejemplo,
Although
lengua
we could say that there are several indigenous languages which are
Aunque exista
used in
normativa
Chubut as a
internacional
result
para
of
la
recent
Declaración
migration
Universal de Derechos Lingüísticos
from
de la
Bolivia,
Convención
for
Convención de los
instance.
Países y las provincias de sus constituciones, aún hay
Although there's regulations and legislations that say that languages should be protected, it's difficult for those laws to be actually used and incorporated into everyday life, and to find people who are ready to fight for the use of minority languages. Professor David Crystal from Cardiff University asked several questions in one of his books. Should we care about the fact that languages are dying? And what is it that dies when a language dies? Some people say that if there are fewer languages in the world, that's so much better for humanity as a whole. It's as if it were a consolation prize or redemption of the divine punishment that we'll read about in the myth of the Tower of Babel. But David Crystal says that we should fight for some kind of linguistic ecology, understanding that all languages are part of the heritage of humanity as a whole. Languages contain a specific way of understanding the world, of different ways of being. People who are interested in translation know this very well. Translating poems, religious texts, even everyday language is always a very difficult task, because what is being expressed is a very specific idiosyncrasy. If we remember that novel by Islwyn Folk Ellis, in which he imagined different futures for the Welsh language in Wales, we can also imagine different possible futures for the Welsh in Patagonia, or for bilingualism, or for bilingual education. Where are we going in our time machine? It really depends on our decisions and our attitudes. The language will survive as long as the speakers want it to live, and as long as the speakers find reasons to carry on using it. Whether, for instance, if they feel that the language helps them to connect themselves with something else, with their heritage. Perhaps in the future we won't have as many fluent speakers of Welsh in Chubut. There may be more bilingual speakers who barely manage to communicate themselves in Welsh. We don't know. Maybe the use of the Welsh language will expand in the future, but it will be a local variation of Welsh. We really don't know. Maybe what we're going to find is a new code that has been worked out of the ashes of the resiliency of this cultural community that lives in Chubut. We want Patagonian Welsh to survive and to change because it is alive. We want it to be our voice because it's our way of looking at the world, and we want it to bring its nuances to the Welsh language in Wales because it's part of the universal multilingual tapestry. 2015 hopefully will open